Check 1, 2. We are getting ready to go live with our new guest host this week, Lady Jaye. Jaye, you ready? Jaye's mic's muted and I can't unmute it, so we'll wait. All right, here we go. Playing the open in 3, 2, 1. Welcome everybody to this episode of In the Zone. I'm RC. Dave DiNatale is out on assignment, so I brought in my hostess with the mostest, Lady Jaye. What's going on?
What is up, everybody?
How's Idaho?
Amazing. The weather is perfect.
You've had a crazy week. So
good.
You went to an MMA fight. You're getting ready to go to a political rally.
I am.
You're
and greet with Candace Owens.
Nice.
I will have photos of me hugging her. Yay.
That's awesome. So then, and the MMA, I think you went to every fighter that looked like they won, because I didn't see too many photos of you with
selfies.
I didn't see you take any selfies with people that looked like they had really been beat. So that's a good thing. So, hey, are you excited about the show tonight?
I am super stoked. This is going to be a great show about genealogy. Am I saying that right?
Yeah. I said, we want to try to bring in an adventure. So, we've got a genealogy expert here, and then we're going to tie it into metal detecting, of course. But
cool.
Yeah, I just think that we try to talk about all things adventure here, and I think one thing always leads into the other. So, any way that you can open a new path to find history is probably a good thing. So,
I think it's awesome.
Have you went back and looked at your family? Can you go back far?
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. Yep. So I have a lot of German heritage and Portuguese. So it was cool. They deployed I can't remember exactly how it goes right now, but the parachute division of World War II, they deployed on my son's birthday back in 1944, I believe it is, February 25th. So awesome. I think that's cool. Yeah. Well, I've looked into it a little bit, and I'm excited to learn a lot more, and I think I'm going to do that tonight.
Yeah. Jen Moniello, I guess I never did get the exact pronunciation, but she's awesome. She's really, really personable, and we've had a great time talking. So I think that she would be a perfect person to help you out, and she's always up for a challenge. But let's bring her in. But let's do a commercial, and we'll be right back.
We all know if you want to find good treasure, you've got to do research. HistoricAerials.com is one of the premier places to do that research. They've got the world's largest collection of United States historic aerial photos. You can compare pictures from year to year and see how topography and structures have changed over the decades. It's like having your own personal time machine. Make sure you're swinging your coil in the right places. HistoricAerials.com is free to use, but they also have subscriptions with awesome tools to help you track down treasure. Check out HistoricAerials.com. It's a real find.
Another awesome website to use for all your hunting. And, I guess if you find your ancestors, you could always go and see what their locations look like. I know that my wife did, and we'll talk about that. But so our first guest I found on Facebook. She was fantastic enough to reply to a message I'd sent, looking for an expert and someone who does genealogy. A lot of times people just get on ancestry.com and hunt and peck around, but there's some more research, and there's some more skill to that. So let's bring in our first guest, and please welcome Jen Moniello. Is that right?
Yes, that's it.
Oh, Moniello. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Jen.
Hello.
All the way from Connecticut tonight. How are you?
Fine, thanks.
So let's get right to it. What made you get involved in ancestry? What was it that really brought you into this field?
So about 20 years ago, I got started working on my family tree. I didn't have much of a relationship with my father, so it was a way of connecting to his side of the family. And I came from a long line of Georgia Salzburgers. I made a trip to Valdosta, Georgia. He was from Georgia. I was born in Florida. And when you go into the Valdosta Historical Society, at least 15 or so years ago, there's a big glass cabinet with what was my family tree. Like, it was just amazing to walk in and suddenly feel that connection to all these names that were on my notes at home, but I could see their connection there and how important they were to that community. So that's how I got started.
So did you start this journey before everything was kind of digital and available at your fingertips, or did you have to go back to card catalogs and that kind of thing, or did you start this journey?
A little of both. It was contacting libraries, asking them to send me documents. And it was the beginning of the internet with dial-up. And you would go to whatever search engine you were trying to use, type in your search, and then go find a chore to do while it downloaded over the next possibly 2 hours. And then often what you downloaded was not entirely what you were looking for either. So, well, it was an adventure.
Because the names could be spelled wrong or something.
Names could be spelled wrong. Someone with a similar name, someone with the same name. My original maiden name was pretty uncommon. So they were all tied together. They're all descended from 2 brothers who came over from Austria in about 1756. But when you start looking at their spouses and other people with more common names like Ponder or something like that, sometimes you get the wrong one.
And going back to the old census records, I wish that they didn't have such beautiful scripty handwriting, because you don't know if that's a U or an O or an A. And
there's the beautiful handwriting, then there's the chicken scratch handwriting, then there's they've crossed out because they put too many children or the neighbor's children under your parent, and they got the ages wrong. And you kind of need a magic decoder ring. That's what
right. So let's say Jay is wanting to start. What would you say? What are kind of the basics? How does someone get involved with finding out about their history? Do they need to fork the money down for a company like Ancestry.com, or is there ways around it? I guess what's the initial steps for somebody that wants to find their roots?
Well, I think every website has its pros and cons. So you have Ancestry, which is specifically designed for family tree building. So you start your family tree, and of course you start your family tree with you, your parents, grandparents, and build out. And they have their algorithm gives like little leaves in your tree that indicates you might have some documents that match the people you're looking for. This is a great resource if they actually match the people you're looking for. Sometimes the Jane Smith they're offering you is not the Jane Smith you were looking for. So that's great. And they have a free trial, so you can always try it out, see if it works for you. The free option is FamilySearch, which is run by the the Mormons.
Saints, right?
Yes, Latter-day Saints.
The LDS. Yeah.
LDS.
I'm in Idaho now, so we've been talking a lot about this with the LDS. Yeah. Yep.
So and they have fabulous documents. They have international documents. I've heard rumored, and I can't verify this, they have the largest digitized collection of Italian documents online. I don't know, but I've used it quite often, so I'll say yes. The only problem with them is their family trees are public. So I could go into a family tree that I think I'm related to, and I think they put in the wrong information and put in my information.
So it's like Wikipedia. You can edit. You can edit something even if you know that you don't want them touching your,
Right.
that area or anything. I see.
Lineage.
But they have the documents, so you kind of weigh one to the other. Sometimes you pull documents off one, upload them to the other. You can pull census records. If you're going back to Ellis Island records are free. If you go to their website, they even have a little database you can search through and try and look for your family names. Problem is sometimes family names change.
So do you
Yep.
do you notice that you may be looking for something and then like a year later it's available? Like one of our first guests on our show was the people who are sponsors, Historical Aerials, and they put in like 10,000 aerial photos a week, new each week. And I assume that these big clearinghouses or these people are scanning documents as we speak. So have you ever ran into that where you've like just woke up one morning and, wow, I've never seen this piece of documentation before that had just been scanned in? Or
Yeah. Well,
Excuse
me. I see that a lot with the Italian records when suddenly this village has been uploaded, or this village from this year to this year has been uploaded. Family pictures. Sometimes new people have joined Ancestry and they start uploading their own family photos. And now you found a picture of your 4-time. So yeah, that does happen a lot.
So if someone does start and they need a little help, and that's kind of like up your alley, like, this is you help people kind of maybe get over that hump, so to speak, or maybe point them towards something else, or if they've got an issue or question, is that something that you like to do, or is it strictly like you want to start from the beginning and get as far as you can?
A little bit of both. I belong to a lot of genealogy forums on Facebook, and sometimes people will pop in and be like, hey, I'm having this problem. Can someone talk me through it? And I'm happy to PM them and say, do you want me to take a look? Do you want me to talk you through it? How's the best way to work this problem for you? A lot of people doing unknown parent searches, they'll just let me have free reign with their DNA. And I start doing the searches and building out the trees. And, we've solved a few cases like that. I'm doing 2 right now that unfortunately their unknown parent was probably a recent immigrant. So there aren't a lot of documents to pull from. They're not in the census records. They probably flew into the US, so they're not on Ellis Island.
Wow.
But I like a challenge.
What happens if you have somebody that you aren't sure what their actual name may have been at birth, because it could have potentially been changed? Like my son, I'm trying to find out information about his grandma, and all the family has passed away, his dad, his grandma, his grandpa, and I'm trying to find his genealogy, but I can't find anything on his grandma, and we think that her name was potentially changed after birth. She was born here. Do you think that a DNA test, if I get him a DNA test and like pop him in Ancestry, will that help us? Because I've been searching for 4 years and I can't find anything on her.
Absolutely. DNA tests they'll connect you to other people that might have that information.
Okay.
So if
there's
you start
mysteries within the family.
And to them, it might not even be a mystery. They just, you suddenly, I printed this out. If you do your DNA test and you look at the amount of DNA that you share with somebody, that gives you an estimate of your relationship with them. And then you can build out your tree to that shared ancestor and start building it forward. So let's say you share 2 times great grandparents, then maybe that's the grandparent's name that you were looking for, and they knew her as Mary, but you knew her as Jane.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. Hey, let's go to commercial break. When we come back, let's move into the DNA thing, because I have one thing that fascinates me and another thing that Jen did that I think is quite remarkable and that everybody should know about. So we'll be back right after this. And we're back. We're speaking with Jen Moniello here on In the Zone. Now, a lot of us history buffs, I notice, are also true crime fans. And I don't know if you guys have heard this story, but recently the rapist
Golden State Killer?
The Golden State Killer. Yes, that 20, 30-year reign of terror ended because of DNA that was surreptitiously put into a family gene database, and they found second and third cousins, and then somebody with Jen's knowledge or expertise then narrowed it down, and they got to the point where there was 6, I believe, people that matched the age range, the location range. Just, Jen, what do you think about that? How all this genealogy stuff is now, I mean, we could possibly in the next decade find out who the Zodiac killer was, who some of these other people were, because we have their DNA. And if anybody in their family went on to one of these 23andMe's or Ancestry.coms, the dominoes start to fall.
Well, first of all, I have to say 23andMe and Ancestry.com don't have an agreement to work with law enforcement. So
Okay.
I know there are some people who don't want to do genetic genealogy. They don't want to submit DNA kits because that's a concern. FTDNA, I believe, is one that does have an agreement with law enforcement, and GEDmatch definitely does. But when you upload to GEDmatch, and GEDmatch is kind of a
I believe that's the one they
clearinghouse.
used, right? That's the GEDmatch.
Yes.
is what they used, right?
Right. So GEDmatch will take uploads from all the different genealogy websites and put them in one place. You can compare your DNA to everybody else's. So, lost my train of thought. Okay, so GEDmatch. So GEDmatch allows you to opt into law enforcement or to opt out. So, but I think for the genealogy,
The crime solving aspect of it.
thank you, the crime solving. I'm sorry, when you flash me out like that,
Okay. I just don't want people.
It's like walking in a room and forgetting why you're there.
Okay, I'll leave it like this. I just don't want people just to see Jay and I going, okay.
I'm rubbing it off on you. It's my fault.
I'm standing in my kitchen going, I don't know what I'm doing.
You are way more interesting than me going, okay. We'll keep it like this. So yeah, sorry.
Okay, so when you upload to GEDmatch and you can compare your DNA, if you've just on Ancestry, 23andMe, FTDNA, MyHeritage, those are the big ones. You can all upload to GEDmatch and compare yourself to everybody. And GEDmatch will allow you to opt in or opt out if they're law enforcement. But I think it's great. I personally don't want to harbor anybody in my family tree who has committed an act like that. And if my DNA can help solve that crime, I'm all for it. I know not everyone feels that way, so I don't want to speak for them, but personally, that's...
How do you spell GEDmatch? JEDD?
It's GED.
GED? Okay.
GED match.
Okay.
So we have a Facebook person. I don't know who it is, but they say, I've been trying to find some of my grandmother that was adopted and basically know nothing. I've done a DNA test and so far haven't been able to tie it to family. I'm guessing all of her family may have died long ago, so I'm still looking. Do you have any ideas of the next step for this person?
Well, without having seen the results, it's kind of all speculation.
Right.
But I would say download the green CM chart, which you can Google it. It says green CM chart. Google knows what it is. And it will tell you your estimated relationships to the people in Ancestry that you match. You try to find your highest matches with the most people in their tree. You match somebody in that tree. You match their grandparent, great grandparent, somebody. And so you build out a tree based on them. It's called a mirror tree. You're mirroring it. And then you find somebody else that also matches that person with a similar tree, and you find out where those trees overlap. That's probably the family you want to start looking at.
Wow, that's a good point. So, so Jen, when we first talked, you mentioned that you petitioned the courts to change your birth certificate based on the fact of your DNA results, and you were the first person to do that in Connecticut or the United States. Okay, talk us through that. That's an amazing story.
Well, like I said, I thought I had done genealogy for 20 years, and I thought I was a Georgia Salzburger. And I had a 2 times great grandmother I couldn't find any information on. So I did a DNA test thinking it would help me get over that little brick wall. And what it turned out was I was not a Georgia Salzburger at all. I was a case of misattributed paternity. And my father was from Appalachia. And using DNA and, like I said, building mirror trees, figuring out what families I matched, what families I didn't. It's like a Chinese logic puzzle. You know, who matches here, who matches there. They match, but they don't. I found my biological family. And my original name should have been Hodge.
Wow.
So I went to North Carolina 2 years ago and met my sisters and cousins and an uncle, and was welcomed and embraced by the family. So I wanted my birth certificate to reflect that. I never had a relationship with a man on the birth certificate. It wasn't a choice that man made to adopt me. It was my mom rolled the dice and things happen.
Right.
So
that's amazing.
So how did that new family take it? Like when you called them and said, "Hey, guess what? We're related," or "You don't know me, but we're related." How did that conversation go?
It actually went a lot better than I expected. At this point, I joined a lot of genealogy forums, a lot of forums for adoptees, a lot of forums for what's called NPEs, which is non-paternity event or not parent expected. I hear a lot of different associations with the acronym, but I'd heard the horror stories of people contacting biological family, cease and desist orders, don't ever call me again, you're lying, all this stuff. So I was braced for it. Mm-hmm. I traced my branch to 5 brothers. So I picked the one brother that wasn't married. I figured there was no wife to irritate by contacting him. And I did one of those free people lookups to find him. And he was actually in a convalescent home in Tennessee. And I called him and said, "Hey, I wanted to talk to you about your time in Lakeland, Florida." And he was quite a cranky old man and yelled at me a lot. And so I ended up talking to his daughter. And I said, "Look, I understand what this looks like, especially in the world we live in. It's not a scam. All I want is a name. Like, I just want to know my family name." And her response was, Hodgman wander. It's what they do. I'll take your DNA test.
Wow. So you paid for her to get a DNA test?
Yep. So I paid for her and she ended up a cousin. So I know I was in the right branch. It was one of those 5 brothers. So she said, "Welcome to the family. I'm going to start calling my cousins." So it was really the best case scenario. And we decided to start with the oldest brother and work down. And also because I sent her a picture and she said, "You look a lot like Bill. So let's start with Bill's kids." And we hit pay dirt. That was my sister's. And
You know, part of
They've
me
been
as a father of daughters, I'm a little sad because, you know, I bet you he would have loved to have known that he had another daughter out there, you know, but you know, I guess it's better late than never that you found out. And I guess I always say that the other positive about DNA is medical. I mean, like you know, you may have a, you know, precondition for this or that, and you may not have known that because you were looking at the wrong part of your fraternity. And I think that's really important for people to know, because, you know, now you've got a whole new outlook on life.
It absolutely is. My father of record, the one originally on my birth certificate, passed away in his late 80s. Just old age got him. My biological father actually died at 59 from a heart condition. So that is definitely information I want to have.
Right.
Because now I know I have a heart condition on both sides of my family, and me and the cardiologist are going to become best friends.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, you would not have known that, you know.
Right.
So, hey, Jen, this has been great. I want to keep you on. I hope you'd stay. I don't know if I want to necessarily put you back in the green room, because I kind of want to hear from you about our next story. But what brought this all about is I had posted on Facebook that I had found out my great-grandfather and great-great-grandfather were all both had fought for the Union in the Civil War, one for the infantry in Indiana and the other one for the artillery in Vermont. And some good friends of mine in metal detecting immediately got a hold of me and said, are you serious? And had a crazy story to tell me about that. So when we come back, we're going to have Heath Jones and Kelly. I don't even want to know how to pronounce her last name, so I'm going to wait and let her do it. So
you're having a J moment.
Yeah, I am. I'm having a J moment, and I'm nervous as it is doing this show. So we'll be right back after this, and we will bring those guys in.
Hi, I'm Cameron Macer from XP Team USA. I wanted to drop in to tell you about our new store. Go to www.xpteamusastore.com. Here you will find our official team hats, t-shirts, both long and short sleeved, hoodies, jackets, and even shorts. Lots of good stuff here, folks. Proceeds from the store will help us continue to give away great prizes from our many contests, and we thank you for your support. Now back to the zone with RC Dunn and Dave D.
And we're back. So let's welcome our second guest. We've got Heath Jones with the History Seekers, and we have Kelly Underwood-Dzemske. Thank you. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hey, thanks for having us on. Don't worry, RC. I'm camera shy too.
My wife says I have a face for radio, like they say. So I don't know if that's good or bad. But, so let's get into the story. So you guys just got done with detecting the Heartland event, and you guys are driving on the way home, and you see one of my silly posts, and I can't believe you actually read it. You're probably like, oh, RC, okay, whatever. Skip. Oh, look, another picture of a funny dog. But you saw it, and you saw the 2nd Vermont Artillery, and Kelly immediately posted saying, Heath, and tagged you, said, Heath, you might want to get a hold of RC. So tell me about that. How'd that come about?
Yeah, Kelly, I'll let you go first on that since you did a lot of the research.
Well, we were metal detecting actually with where RC's ancestor was at. But when we saw the post, I was like, oh my God, poor Hudson. He's like, what? I'm like, tell RC to call you. And he's like, why? I'm like, 2nd Vermont. And anybody who knows me knows when I get excited and I expect you to know exactly what I mean by like 2 words.
Yeah.
And so he's still kind of like, I'm like, call Heath. And he's like, call me. I don't know. It was like 9:30 at night or something.
Which is perfect time for me.
That's all the information RC gets too, is like my 2 words of like, call me or call Heath. Because that's what I can get out when I, want something. Like,
I mean, I'm pretty sure I knew that you guys didn't need like a kidney or something, so I knew I think I was going to be okay. But yeah, no, I was interested, so I call.
Yeah, and so when I saw the post, I knew immediately, and I saw 2nd Vermont Light Artillery. I was like, oh, this is going to be great. I knew, because we'd actually talked about, and anybody that doesn't know, that doesn't watch our History Seekers YouTube channel, we dug one of probably the rarest Union Civil War projectiles from a cannon, and it was at Port Hudson. This is the only place it was fired, or pretty much where they find them. Yeah, there's a picture of it up on the screen. Well, not the exact one I found. I've got mine sitting beside me, but that's one like it. It's called a Sawyer, and that's actually a bolt, and it was fired at another cannon. What made it so special was the 2nd Vermont Light Artillery that fired the one that I found. There was only, what was it, 3 guns or 4, Kelly? I never can remember.
It was 4 guns, and then they had 2 parrot guns as well. So
they had 2 20-pound parrots.
And 2 20-pound parrots.
Yeah, so you're talking about in the entire Civil War, that round could have only been fired by those 4 guns in that unit. No other unit had them, and no other battle had they been found. So when I knew that I was holding, well, this projectile right here in my hand, and I said RC's grandfather could have loaded this round into a cannon. At least there's a good chance of it.
Goosebumps.
Yeah,
crazy.
About it.
If he didn't load it, then he carried it, or he dug it there,
fired it.
Fired it.
Yeah,
he had something to do with that.
And the story doesn't end there. So he fought there, and then he went to Jackson, Louisiana, where he was captured, and went to probably the one place you don't want to go during the Civil War, Andersonville Prison, where he died of, we determined, you said it was tuberculosis. It said consumption of the lungs, but that would be tuberculosis. But you've also hunted Andersonville for the Department of the Interior, right?
Yeah, we did. This has been several years ago, before we started our YouTube channel. Even before we started the podcast, I see a lot of people that used to listen to our podcast in here. But we talked about it a lot on our podcast. We actually got invited to hunt Andersonville Prison. Now, we didn't get to keep anything, of course. Everything that we found had to be turned over to the archaeologist. But we found some just absolutely incredible items there. It's one of those things that, rarely will you get that kind of opportunity.
Now, I think this kind of brings up a good point. Like when I was looking for our guests for this week, and I had posted on a couple genealogy Facebook pages, like I gave them my story, what I was looking to do, and how I was looking to tie it in. And Jen can attest to this. It was not a welcoming a group. I got a lot of, you need to let archaeologists do that. You're disturbing things that you need to leave to a professional. And I know you guys, and you know me, and you know kind of how metal detecting is, that, we're finding stuff that the archaeologists would never attempted to look at, number one, and we would never have had to tie this story together. But kind of talk about, have you experienced that kind of, thumbing the nose at detectorists for what we try to do? I mean, now granted, there's bad seeds in every hobby, but it's just kind of unfortunate that we still in this day and age have that.
Yeah, so we've definitely experienced that with the archaeologist, especially starting out before people knew who we were and what our team does. But not so bad now, but used to, they would do that. We were fortunate enough, the archaeologist that was running that team, he's very pro metal detectorist. He realized really quickly the benefits of having metal detectorists on the team, because they said they had a Deus and they had a CTX 3030 that they didn't know how to use them as well. And because, you've got to spend a lot of time with these detectors to really get to learn, how they work and what they're telling you. And so we were finding so much more than they ever did with the machine. So they recognized the benefit of bringing us in. And of course, we did it for free, just for having the opportunity to go there.
Right. Now, Kelly, what's it like to do the research and find the, like what Jen does, find the research and then actually do what I talked about wanting to do is walk in those footsteps. I mean, you do a lot of research, you read a lot, you do a lot of stuff, and then to actually physically be there, that kind of adds to the hunt, right? It's not just like getting a permission and, well, I mean, you know, you get permissions, you go to a house, you don't know the history of that house most of the time, but you do. Talk about that.
It's amazing. A lot of the times, I know when I go with the boys, I'll stand and look sometimes, and I'll be like, wow, you know, the things that happened here. And a lot of times you can still see the rifle pits, you can still see the earthworks. So when you're looking at these things, and you can almost feel like you're there, you know what happened, you know how many people died there, you know what happened. And maybe not even going back as far as the Civil War, I've gone back to where my ancestors lived in the 1800s, and I've gone and I've picked up the plow points that they used, some of the, you know, gone back to their dumps, so things that, you know, the silverware and things that I found on their farms, you know, in the Midwest. Or most people would be like, oh, that's a plow point. Yeah, who cares?
Right.
You go back to that part in time. So it's really important. It's really being able to piece everything together. We were able to go, the first time I went down south, we were able to go to it was a Civil War field where my ancestor, who was on the Union side, and his ancestor that was on the Confederate side, fired at each other. And actually the first bullet I found was a Confederate bullet. But it's just amazing. The history is amazing. And if we, as these things in anything, it doesn't matter if it's something from a war, something from a homestead, if we don't get these items out of the ground and see what they are and appreciate them, they're just going to rot in the ground.
Right.
And we're never going to explore what they are.
And there's some serendipity with like what Jen does. I mean, Jen, can you imagine finding a generational home, and you've done the legwork and found the family tree, and then somebody like Heath or myself or Kelly go and hunt there, and we find a ring, or we find something that's got the name of the initials or the name inscribed in it. That's a tangible piece of that you can give to a family member, that, you know, this is, like, you know, we're talking about my great grandfather touching the shell. You know, we've done things where we found rings that you could be like, that, you know, I never met my father, but this was his class ring, and he lost it a block away from the house 40 years ago playing in the snow. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I love, how this forum, this is what we're talking about tonight, just kind of ties together, because, you know, it's one thing to see someone's name on a piece of paper and know you're related to them, but it's something else to meet a second cousin, find a piece of jewelry that they find. I mean, it just kind of brings everything together, and it's amazing.
It's a physical connection to a point in time that
Right.
your ancestor lived in.
Right. Jay, what do you got? You got anything for these guys?
I just think it's amazing to hold something that is that old. You know, like when you're finding bullets and whatnot, casings from back in the Civil War, and you're actually holding that in your hand, that is powerful. That is amazing. You know, just to know the history, where it came from. I think it's awesome.
And I think it goes back to what we always say, and Heath, you can attest to this, and Kelly also, and Jen for that, is it's all about research. I mean, everybody can be lazy and they can go to a park and hunt and find $3.27 and change that somebody dropped to the left, or nails or something like that. But to go to do the research to find locations, and, you know, I mean, I know that Heath and Kelly, they're even more restricted, because they might find areas, and then they have to do research to find out who owns the land, because no one trespasses on people's lands, and they have to get permissions. Then they have to make sure that isn't a national historical land, because you can't hunt that. So, I mean, there's a lot of steps. So, can you guys kind of go into that? Like when you do the research and you find a new area, like, obviously without going into your secret sites and stuff, but what's the process of getting, I mean, we're talking months before the coil even hits the soil, right?
Yeah. And first of all, I know just enough about genealogy to be really dangerous. So Kelly, I can't stress how much of a benefit learning genealogy is to getting to the point where you're even looking for the permission. And so there is a lot that goes into it. I guess the best thing I could tell you is related to an experience. Kelly found where my great grandfather, like 1830s or 1840s, Kelly, what was it, like third or fourth grade?
The fourth great grandfather.
Fourth grade. Okay. So she found, we stumbled upon some research that showed the original land grant where he was granted land in Alabama. And then I took that information with the mapping that I do and found out the 40 acres, and we narrowed it down to where it was. And so then it's just a matter of looking to see who owns the land and getting permission, that sort of thing. We have been able to metal detect that area. However, we only found one thing because it was recently logged within the last couple of years. And in Alabama, once it's logged, if you're not on there within 2 or 3 months, if it's summertime, then you won't be hunting it for about 20 years. It's briars over my head now.
Really?
But we were able to slash away and really just get in there. And we found a musket ball that was very crudely cast, and you can see the cast marks on it. So you can't say for sure it's something that he had, but the odds are really good. So, finding stuff like that really means a lot. Eventually, hopefully, we'll find the home place there.
So, Jen, do you have go ahead.
How far back can you guys go with genealogy? I mean, I've heard like 1800s. Can you go back even further, or what's the process there?
It depends on how much time, effort, and money you're willing to invest. Okay. I have my husband's genealogy back to 1760 something, but that's where the digitized church records end. And I would have to go to Italy to go to the churches to do the research.
So but you go to the country or wherever the lineage is from, then you can most likely find more information.
Right. There is one of my family lines, and unfortunately I can't verify it, and the person hasn't responded to my request because sometimes people abandon their ancestry accounts, but they have one of my family lines back to like 16 something in England. So that's, as long as the documents are there, you just keep tracing them. And
what do you see the percentages, like when you do that, are that they're correct? Is it more than 50%, or is it just people clicking on the leaf and saying, "Oh yeah, it looks good," and then doing it? I mean,
I would say more than 50%. I mean, in my experience, maybe as I do this longer, that percentage will go down, or it'll go up. But there is the instance of people they see the leaf and click on it and think it looks good, and
that's Heath. Then he gives it to Kelly, and she's like, "What are you talking about?" So Jen, give us an example of, like we say, we find something in the ground that's amazing, and we're so glad we did. Can you think of something that you uncovered searching for yourself or for a client, or something that was kind of an aha or out of left field? I mean, I guess even more than the fact that your father wasn't your father.
Well, I'd like to say we seem to have irritated some witch down the line who cursed our family or something, because I actually found on my mother's side, her father wasn't her father and his father wasn't his father. So, and my biological grandfather was actually this big mystery cluster of families. I couldn't figure out where they fit in my tree. It was just bugging me. And I went through all the old census records, and I found a border in my grandmother's house the year before the man was born, name as that cluster that I couldn't place. And suddenly it all made sense. So, but that also now his line goes back to a great grandfather who's buried in Belgium because he died during World War I, which personally is meaningful to me. I want to be able to go there and stand at his grave and pay my respects.
And that's kind of what we talked about, is is I've got to Barry Dunn, and I would love to know where he's buried or how he came to be. And so we'll be in touch, because to me, I mean, that's my surname, so that's kind of even the most important to me. But Kelly, what do you think? What gives you the most thrill, or gets the adrenaline pumping more? Finding something in the dirt, or finding something in your research beforehand, or is it equal?
Recently, I'm still trying to find a Union soldier in Heath's genealogy. That's been driving me for like 2 years, or Confederate in mine. That's been a mission that I've been on. But my genealogy goes back in the United States to the 1640s. So,
you actually think there's Yankee blood in that man to your
no,
left? I don't think so either.
I mean, I've tried everything. He's got about 15 Confederate soldiers.
I mean, like when you guys hold hands, I think it kind of burns a little bit, right? Like his ancestry is still fighting back with every ounce of their being.
I think so. Then I started doing Roger Harris's, and I just got Confederate, and his. They were his ancestors were at the same prisoner of war camp at the same time.
Wow.
So I stopped doing his too. I'm like, Roger, I'm not playing with your ancestry anymore either. And then
we rode right there on the way up.
So,
but don't you I mentioned this earlier to Jen, like, we kind of live in a great age. I mean, can you imagine? I have so much respect for the people that didn't have Ancestry.com, didn't have digital copies of the census. I mean, that would go to a library or go to parish after parish after parish and looked at baptismal records. And I mean, people don't realize we had an entire census wiped out due to fire. So if states didn't do a census, you have that 10 years of your family is not existent. And it seems like there's a lot of hurdles out there that luckily we have the internet to thank now.
Well, when you do like the genealogical things, when you go to like daughters of Union veterans of the Civil War, sons of Confederate veterans, or daughters of the American Revolution, the colonial dames, anything like that, though, you have to do a birth certificate, a death certificate, a marriage certificate for each generation. So you still have to do quite a bit of going to the courthouse types of stuff for that.
True.
I've been to courthouses all over the place when I have gone to do that. I've done a lot of going around to do those kinds of research. And with COVID, I mean, with the libraries and stuff being closed, I've been very miserable without being able to go do my research. So.
Well, I've been very lucky. I actually just spoke to the Tennessee Archives today because I was trying to find my grandparents' marriage certificate, which we realized nobody had. And maybe they're not letting people in, but the librarians are still working. And sometimes you get lucky. Someone will be there. They'll do the search for you and send you a copy. So pick up a phone. You might get lucky.
Yeah, I've done that all the way until it was too difficult for me to, like, I was going to have to send, like, even somebody that has been dead for 100 and some years, if you can't show, at least as in Indiana where I was looking at, if you can't show that you are a relative of this person, they don't release that document. So, I knew that person passed away. I had to, but I physically wanted to see the piece of paper, and it was like, it's not worth it, because it was going to be way more work than the $5 it was to get it, because I had to prove that maiden names did come back to me. So, I think that's kind of another thing that people should know about it is, it's still pretty safe, because I mean, if you have an ancestor that has died in the turn of the century, they're not going to just release that document to you unless you prove that you have a need for it or have relations. So.
Yeah, it varies by state. Every state's a little bit different with what they'll give out, and genealogical copies. As far as real copies, I know one county in Iowa, and I don't remember, I think it was Story County, wouldn't give me all the information on a death certificate for a genealogical copy. But if I would prove exactly who I was, they would give me the whole thing. So,
Awesome.
There's rules for all different places.
So we have about 10 minutes left, and Jay's got a giveaway to do, but I want to thank all of our guests tonight. Jen, I guess people, if they want to find more information or maybe ask you a question or something, they can just find you on either Facebook or the genealogical Facebook groups that are out there, right?
Well, yeah, you can join the Facebook groups. I think my profile is locked down pretty tight on Facebook, so you may not be able to find me just doing a search. But feel free to share my email. I will answer emails. I'm usually up at the dead hours of night doing research, so you might get an email from me at 3:30 in the morning, but I'll respond. Perfect.
And Heath, I don't know if people can find you. I don't know. You've got a double hyphenated name. Let's see. So let's see. Your Heath Jones History Seekers YouTube is your full given name.
Yeah, it's everybody. Nobody calls me just Heath. It's always Jones. Scott's always making that joke. But yeah, if you guys can't find me on Facebook, something's wrong. But look for me on Facebook. Also, join History Seekers YouTube channel and hit subscribe and the bell icon. You'll be notified when we go to one of these cool sites. So you never know. Sometimes we do stuff following up on family history too.
Keep it here, because I'm going to move mountains and do whatever I can, pandemic be damned, to get down there and hunt where my relative fought. So I'm looking forward to that. Kelly, what do you got to give us? Something that you want to promote? I know you're an admin on a couple really cool Facebook groups, but just what do you got for us?
Check us out on History Seekers YouTube, Detecting the Heartland Facebook group, Metal Detecting for Beginners and Beyond if you just want to get into metal detecting. And you can find me on Facebook, Kelly Underwood. The last part is Dzemske. If you can spell that, you'll be able to find me.
Jeez,
it's got a lot of vowels.
I mean, she could be Jones. I mean, let's just let's just straighten this out. I mean, I don't know. No pressure. But I always told my wife's maiden name was Thompson. I said, you got D, so you moved up in the alphabet. I mean, and you lost a bunch of letters. Look how much ink you're going to save signing your name. So. But guys, thank you. I really appreciate it. Jen, I'm going to be in touch. I know that I will. I'll put your email address on our Facebook group, so anybody that watches the show here, I know that the internet is a wild and crazy place, and we don't need pictures of shirtless gentlemen coming into your inbox late at night, unless it's Heath or myself.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, right.
And Jay, if you do your son's DNA, I am happy to walk you through the process.
Yeah, I would love to do that for him. For sure.
All right. Well, guys, thank you for joining us, and enjoy your Tuesday. And I'm going to say goodbye to everybody but Jay, who's going to give away some cool stuff. So, Kelly, and goodbye. Heath, goodbye. Jen, we appreciate it. Thank you so much for being on the show tonight.
Happy to help.
Okay, goodbye. All right, Jay, do your business. Do your stuff.
All right, I am here with Infinity Coins at infinitycoins.com, and we are giving away a couple pounds of wheat cents to one lucky person that shared
a couple pounds.
That shared Infinity Coins and also shared our show on Facebook, because we're trying to promote the show. Right. We love you. We want you to love us.
Right.
And so Alice Frick won a couple of pounds of wheat cents from Infinity Coins and infinitycoins.com.
Okay, so then you'll get a hold of Alice, right?
Yep. Okay. And what's really cool about infinitycoins.com right now, we just uploaded a ton of ancient coins, which I think is fantastic, tying in with this and all of the old lineage and, everything from the past. Tons of old coins on there from like 350 AD.
Right. And that's the other cool thing. Like I always try to find I always try to get coins of my daughter's birthdays and stick it in the back, like this was minted the year you were born, I mean, at the very least, that's a tangible connection to the past, and that's great. So now in 2 weeks, we'll have another giveaway. Now, I should have been thinking ahead of myself, but I started my own YouTube channel whenever I go out metal detecting, and it is called Dirt Therapy, because everybody needs to just relax. I see that everybody has these YouTube channels, and they're so, we got to do this, got to do that, and I just want to entertain people. I call it Dirt Therapy. I want you to sit back on your smart TV or your phone, like at 9 o'clock at night, right before you're going to go to bed, and just say, I just want to be entertained. I don't want to be taught how to do something. I don't want to have steps on this or that. I just want to have a quick video of, oh, cool, where's he at? What's he doing? What did he find? So that's what Dirt Therapy is all about. So if you search RC's Dirt Therapy and you like and subscribe, that's going to be your new thing. So you're going to have to like and subscribe RC's Dirt Therapy, and like and subscribe Infinity Coin. And we're going to come up, Jay and I are going to meet. We'll come up with something really cool to give away in 2 weeks. So hopefully we'll see those subscriptions, subscription or subscribers, whatever you want to call it, increase.
Give us some love, people.
Yeah, I mean, look at this. Look at this. This is, can you see? I got poison ivy right here.
Oh my God.
All over. And I metal detected that last video I did. I think I was showing pictures of all the trees falling down. I think I got poison oak because I was climbing around these trees and stuff. So, I mean, that's trying to entertain you guys. So, but
I don't wish that on my worst enemy.
No, you gotta watch Heath. Heath's got some great shows. Heath riled some people up the other day with he did an amazing reenactment of, I don't know if it was a reenactment. I'm going to bring him back on. I want to talk about this real quick. Hey, Heath, what was that? It was a Confederate. Was it full military honors for a Confederate veteran, or was it just a reenactment of that, or what was that?
Yes and yes. It was actually the first video we had where they actually recovered the soldier's body. He was the last Confederate soldier killed east of the Mississippi River. His name is Lieutenant Buttram. Check it out. It was the Battle of Mumford, which is really close to where I live. I was there the day they recovered him, and they got to finding out a little bit more about who we are and what we did, and they asked us to come and be the official videographers for the funeral. So we covered the entire funeral when they reburied him. And interesting enough, and it ties back into what you guys were talking about tonight, they attempted to recover DNA. I don't think it's been successful so far, but they are trying to do the DNA match. I wish I'd have mentioned that during the main part of the show.
But that's all right. But I mean, just again, we live in a time where that was deemed inappropriate, and you had a fight to keep that online. And it's sad, but that's a whole nother topic. But thanks. And I know between Heath and myself, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channels. He's got way more videos, but I'm sure that Heath can say that I'm not too bad myself, but I'm new to this, so give me a try, give me a shout out.
We'll give you some help on it. Hey, and I was going to mention too, if you guys want to know more about that Lieutenant Buttram, Kelly just wrote an outstanding article. I don't think it's been published yet. I think it's coming soon though. It's going to be in American Digger magazine as well. So, and they'll have more about it there.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, we appreciate everybody watching, and it is officially 8 o'clock. So my bedtime. Got to go pick up the girls from dance. Lady J, she's an hour ahead of us, so she's still up and partying. But Mr. Heath, it's 9 o'clock his time, so he's way past bedtime. He's going to turn into a pumpkin pretty soon. So, all right, everybody, have a good night from XP Team USA in the zone, and we'll see you next time.